Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Azure podcast with your host Sam Foote.
And Aaron Armstrong.
If you're new here, we're a pair of Azure and Microsoft 365 focused IT security professionals.
It's episode 29 of season 5. Sam and I had a recent discussion around external attack surface management. Here are a few things we covered. What is external attack surface management? What is Defender EASM, and how can it help identify your risks? How do you set up Defender EASM, and how much does it cost?
We've noticed that a large number of you aren't subscribed. If you do enjoy our podcast, please do consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to us for you to show your support to the show.
It's a really great episode, so let's dive in.
Hey Alan, how are you doing this week?
Hey Sam, not doing too bad. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Anything exciting happened in the world of technology in the last week?
Not that I'm aware of. Don't think so. It's been busy at work, so it's been not been keeping up with too much.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of too much on the Twitter sphere. What do I see people talking about?
What's Twitter?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm still living in the I don't know when. Yeah, I don't think I've heard too much, to be totally honest with you. It's been quite a quiet. The whole CrowdStrike debate conversation has quietened down a little bit. I know there was some back and forth publicly between is it Delta Airlines CEO and CrowdStrike, but yeah, apart from that. I did see some quite cool. Actually, no, I did see some quite cool Copilot exploitation at DEF CON. I thought some of those use cases were quite interesting because when I've been talking to people about Copilot, I have been sort of saying that I had sort of a thought that mass exfiltration of data would be like a sort of a concern via Copilot, if that makes sense, because it's essentially a way to very quickly search SharePoint, basically, in its most basic sense. And it was interesting. I can't remember the name of the tool, but somebody's weaponized, or at least scripted. I haven't looked at it in detail, but like a rapid way to start to exfiltrate data with Copilot, like a bad actor utilizing a script. So be interesting to see what entry point they hook for that to actually do the querying, if that makes sense. Because I don't know if there's. I haven't inspected the web traffic or anything like that to see what the API endpoints are. I assume there's not like a graph API for it. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess this comes back to protecting the endpoints in some form, unless it's they've got in and I've got access, via a normal web browser from anywhere, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's just it feels like to me like classic identity protection, really, isn't it? As soon as this isn't the type of attack that exploits like a vulnerability in a piece of software or product, right? This is just utilizing a product in a nefarious way. So it is interesting to see, and I'm not really sure how you protect against it in terms of somebody's actually got access to the account, because I think a lot of the more rigorous visibility and monitoring comes from E5 technology, to be honest with you. So be interesting to see if there's going to be a solution for our E3, customers. So yeah, just interesting to see it actually being, that scenario to be worked through.
Yeah, I think you're right around it's the identity, because it's the access you have to data as well, isn't it? So it's that plus how you gain access to the account. But then I suppose the second part might be if there's a way to run it on a user's device to then access the information, things like that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what level of access you do really need. Do you just need the identity, you know,
A
and then
token.
with that
Yeah.
comes the whole, you know, session control, conditional, like blah blah blah, all those types of things, right? Like, you know, does this sit outside of all of that? I assume it does. I don't know. I need to have a play with it. Cool. Alan, what are we talking about this week?
So we're going to talk about external attack surface management. So it's pretty new to myself. We're just going to go through Microsoft's sort of Defender EASM tooling and what it does, how it helps you, kind of thing.
Okay, so yeah, should we just start from, you know, sort of I say the basics. I don't know, that could be a loaded statement. So what is attack surface management?
Yeah, so really, let's break it down into what I guess an external attack surface is, and really that's around your digital assets that are internet facing. So that's your virtual machines, that's your websites, that's your applications, things like that. That are exposed to the internet, and in effect, it's an attack surface. So I guess from a if we kind of take it away from being internet facing kind of thing, and we talk about like endpoints, we have attack surface reduction rules for Defender for Endpoint, where you're just blocking mechanisms on that device to even run certain potential attacks and things like that. So reducing your risk at that point. So external access service management, EASM, is in effect the process of searching for your assets in there, infrastructure, things like that, but also in effect building your inventory there, understanding what is part of your attack surface, your external attack surface, and then looking at your vulnerabilities and your prioritization of what you should be like fixing in that environment, as well as sort of evaluating whether actually you got assets there you didn't know about or you shouldn't have still, that may be a potential attack vector for someone to get in. So it's really around sort of gaining that visibility, for your external attack surface, as it kind of sounds. So that's really sort of it. I guess initially, it's more of a discovery tool and a monitoring tool to make sure that you're tracking that side of it. So yeah.
Because I suppose organizations' perimeter or external perimeter is completely disconnected. I don't know, stretched apart. Is this more complex now because we've got multiple different data centers, cloud providers? You stretch your perimeter a lot wider.
Yeah, exactly. And you might be consuming a SaaS, software as a service solution with your domain, say. So, and you might not be able to, you may have not have identified that as, an asset or, an external, a potential externally facing asset kind of thing. We all know probably if we in a IaaS or PaaS or on-premise environment what is exposed to the internet because we've configured it. But there might be other assets that we don't know about or we haven't tracked. And in effect, this sort of solution sort of does that for you when you sort of, and when we talk about how we sort of set it up, how we get it to work out, where our assets are in effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what is Defender EASM, and how does it help to reduce risk?
Yeah, so Defender EASM is Microsoft's version of an external attack service management. It's hosted in Azure, and it is a consumption-based something that you buy through consumption. And what it does is, as I said, it allows you to set up some discovery discovery schedules, as well as providing you that inventory. So what that can look at is it goes through Microsoft's intelligent security graph and actually looks at whether your assets have been identified within that threat intelligence data that Microsoft has, to either identify if it's been, there's leaked information about it, or potentially, vulnerabilities and things like that. So that's one part to it, and you can feed it. So in effect, what you have to do is sort of seed it, I guess, and the sort of assets that it can, track, is domains, IP blocks, hosts, email contacts, ASNs, and whois organizations. So it allows you to then track all those types of assets in there, and then they get discovered, and then you can then understand, like I said before, what is out there, that one that you don't know about, and two that you can check off your list that confirming that it is sort of out there. So yeah, that is what Defender's doing there, and it can then in effect feed into other services. So either does today, or it can feed into things like the exposure management, I believe, in Defender XDR, but also there's a plugin for Copilot for security, so that you can query that data using Copilot for security as well, as part of your sort of maybe your prompt books, or just to generally just check those assets there, or you get them against some of the other information that you can ask Copilot for security.
Nice. So yeah, once you've built this sort of intelligence database of intelligence, you can then utilize it in other products in the sort of Microsoft ecosystem. I suppose that just keeps everything connected and enriched across all all of those different products, I should say.
Yeah, and as part of that discovery, it does a weekly scan of it all again, so it's continuous monitoring of it there. And in effect, what you get is a dashboard of your assets and things like that. But what you can do is it then gives you some information around them. So let me just find my instance of it, because I ran it against my sort of information. So it gives you a what's it give you? It gives you a posture management. So it's kind of doing kind of same thing as sort of Defender for Cloud does around your cloud environments, but then is adding posture management for your external assets that may not be part of Azure or a cloud environment. So it initially gives you like a breakdown of domains, hosts, and things like that. It can also grab SSL certificates that are part of those domains, so you can see that they're being used, or if there are some bespoke ones out there that you're not aware of. And it's interesting because adding your contacts in that maybe you might have exposed to the internet also allows you to see what pages they might be on your website, things like that, or if they've been mentioned on web pages and things like that. But yeah, it goes through sort of 149 sort of checks or observations. It's around some main sort of CVEs. So it does some checks, like I said, checks against those CVEs against your assets. So mainly around your hosts or what's on the ends of IPs and things like that. It gives you like a score then against how risky that environment is. Some of the dashboarding that you've got is you've got GDPR compliance. So maybe some things around SSLs, certificates, whether your sites are active and things like that. Where there's any errors on the browser when you try to go to those websites. there's also some things around PII data and things like that in there. So it's really giving you an idea of what those endpoints do or don't have on them. One other thing is that you can do. They've got a list of or a dashboard for OWASP top 10 sort of checks there, and again it will tell you which assets may have cryptography failures or injection or insecure design kind of stuff within it. And yeah, that's really you can tag your assets as well. So maybe if you've got specific applications, things like that, and you'll kind of want to filter them so you can understand whether an application has an issue or you've got different teams that look after them. And then it just keeps updating, like I said, weekly, or you can just do a one-off run against the data there.
Nice. So yeah, there seems to be loads of intelligence and value that you can gain from it, right? All the different types of, I'll call them entities that it can track, I suppose, and give you all of that reporting, and I suppose in relative real time, alerting to it. That seems, really powerful. Is it easy to set up? What's the sort of steps for getting it going?
Yeah, so it is really quite easy to set up. In effect, what you do is you create an instance of it, and you can have multiple instances if you want to. So maybe if you want to do it by sub-organization, things like that, or maybe by application, things like that, maybe, or just the sort of whole organization. But in effect, once you create your instance, you then have to provide information. So, in effect, seed the discovery part. So when you're doing that, you provide the various information that I kind of mentioned before. So you can do an import of your seed, but in effect, it's like organizational information. So it's like if you got a LinkedIn page, your website, things like that, so they can kind of gather information around that. You can then specify your domains, IP blocks, hosts, email contacts, ASNs, and who is organizations. In effect, you can put as much or as little in there, and for some of the sort of seeds, you can exclude assets or IPs, things like that, because there may be a reason for, like, you don't want to look at your dev test, maybe as an example, or maybe there's a subset of your organization that you don't want to discover. So yeah, once you've put all that information in, and then in effect set it to a week or as a one-off run, you can then you get it to leave it to run, and then within you have to leave it 24 hours for the scan to then go through the intent security graph, and then the various other sort of data sources that Microsoft uses to collect that data. And then when after 24 hours, you come back, you can then start seeing your assets and the information there. Once you've done that, if you've forgotten an asset or one of those IP ranges, or you want to exclude one, you can go back in and modify that seed, and then wait for the next run in a week's time for an update. And then that's just left to run, really.
So it feels like to me, gathering the list of required configuration parameters. I don't know what they're referred to as.
Seeds, yeah.
The seeds, sorry. That's probably going to be the biggest part, isn't it? Maybe, like, especially if you've got a large organization, there could be quite a lot that you want to track.
Yeah, absolutely. That list is going to be sort of key. I mean, you can obviously start with the main things that you'll know about, maybe your main website, maybe the IP ranges that you own, things like that, or assets that you know about quite quickly to get the information starting to come in. But like I said, you can then expand it later on, either with new sort of asset groups where you can, in effect, create another discovery schedule, just so you can keep an idea of, these are this application, this is core, organizational sort of sites, things like that, if you want to. But yeah, keep tweaking and updating. Again, you might get something that actually you find a load of assets that aren't yours, but are maybe related to you. Maybe it's like a partner organization or something, and you don't want to be able to track their assets. So you can start excluding those URLs or those IP ranges at a later date, to kind of tweak, it to your data, to your attack surface in effect.
Nice. And I suppose the $1 million question, or might be, I don't know, hopefully not, is how much does it cost?
So you get a 30-day trial whenever you set one up, so you can see at least, what information you can collect and sort of your posture around it. But in effect, it is 1.1 cents per asset per day. So you may only put 10, 20 seeds in, and thinking that you might only get 10 or 20 things back, or it might come back with a lot of assets. I think we've seen with some organizations that they've maybe put in, 100 assets, different IPs, different domains, things like that. And it's come back with thousands of assets kind of thing. So, and I think it's, every time it scans, it obviously changes the asset list or updates it. So, so an item or an asset could be there for up to a week if it then disappears. I mean, we wouldn't expect things to disappear. It'd be more that we'd probably be additional things there, unless you're changing your seeds there. So it doesn't sound expensive on that part, but like you said, if you've got a large organization or you are have a large, attack surface, external attack surface, because of your applications, your services are, internet exposed, it may ramp up that price or that cost there. But within the actual Defender EASM, there's a billing assets part, so you can actually see what you're going to be billed for. So you can tag assets as approved and unapproved, which I think I'll have to double check, but in effect it's only approved assets that get billed. But I think by doing that, the data then around them is then sort of removed, if that makes sense. You don't get any of the ability to see the additional information around those assets.
So could you just give me like a numbers example? Like if I've got 1,000 assets, how much is that going to cost me a month?
1,000 assets would be £11 $11 per day.
Okay, so that's what, about 300 and something dollars a month ish.
To say 30 days, 330, yeah, $330 a day, a week. I get it right, a month.
Okay,
yeah,
and I think if you had 1,000, well, I don't know, it's 1,000 assets. It's not just resources, is it? It's not just like web servers, is it? This is everything in your organization.
Yeah, so kind of the different types of assets could be, like I said, a contact, an SSL certificate, hosts, domains, ASNs, IP addresses, and IP blocks. But it also does pages of a asset, of a site. So if you've got a large website with loads of web pages, think example, Potentially, it's going to track all of those as well.
Got it. Right.
So for instance, for my domain, I've got 18 assets. And that included my contact details, my which web page, which isn't there anymore for it, but my HTTP and HTTPS pages for .uk and .co.uk. It's got some of my configuration for hosts and that for my Microsoft tenant. So like my auto enrollment kind of stuff and things like that. And yeah, my domain and hosts. So I've got quite a few in there. I haven't got anything on Whois because I'm privately hiding, those parts of it. But I expect it would have potentially seen that. So yeah, and that was just with 3 or 4 assets, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose you are more of a technical user, though, aren't you? So.
Yeah, I've got nothing on those bits. Yeah, absolutely. But as an example, it's just very, very light there.
Okay, nice. Anything else we need to go over, Alan? More of a shorter one, I suppose, but that's no bad thing, that's for sure. But anything else you want to cover?
No, I don't think there is anything else. Like I said, it's relatively simple to get started. And again, you get a 30-day trial, so you can get in there and see what sort of asset numbers you might get, which also might be where you want to start tweaking your seeds and things like that, and put exclusions in maybe. But no, I don't think there's anything else. Like I said, I think it integrates with the exposure management side of things. There was some things around it going into Defender for Cloud at one point, and like I said, you can query the data using Copilot for security as well.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, Sam, what's the next episode?
Next episode, I'm going to do Azure Container Storage. So I did a storage accounts or Azure storage last week. So we're going to start to jump through the different various storage mechanisms. So if you've got containers that you're running in Azure and you need to think about and manage volume storage, that's what I'm going to cover next week.
Okay, great. Okay, so if you did enjoy this episode, please do consider leaving us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. This really helps us reach out to more people like yourselves. If you do have any specific feedback, suggestions, we have a link in our show notes, or you can put a comment on the episode.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks if you've made it this far for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks all.